Hello, I'm making this bag and I'm taking you with me. Let's get the pattern ready on paper. This is the assembly. We're gonna paste A1 and A2 together, B1 and B2 together, and we're gonna cut C and the handles. In the pattern you can download from your mail when you order from my Etsy, there are gonna be two handles optioning for longer and a shorter handle bag. This is the entire thing we're gonna need to complete this bag. On top of every piece it says how many of them we're gonna need, and for C, the ellipse part on the bottom, it's optional. You can have a 1 layer or 2 layer bottom for a stronger bag. Now putting the pattern pieces on leather and punching first, and then I'm cutting all of them. Also an important point cutting this piece, you need to mark the corners that's shown in the pattern. It doesn't show it here really, but it shows in the pattern. You need to mark the points there to be able to match them when you're sewing. Now my pieces are ready to be able to do the outer bag with 4 pieces of handle I'm gonna use later. I'm using 0.6 millimeters of waxed thread and 2 needles, and there are no hardware in this bag. It's a really simple bag. For closure, I cut thin little strips from scraps that only have 1 hole, and then I'm gonna incorporate that when I'm sewing the 2 bags together. And here's some sewing footage. I'm using classic lead saddle stitch, and you can Google, find videos on YouTube if you're new to it. But what's important with sewing Suede is kind of keeping the pressure on the second leather always. One you're using and pulling it through, and the second leather you need to keep pressure somehow. And now the first line is over, and I'm gonna keep doing this, but before I hit it with something round to relieve the stress of the stitches a little bit. Now I connected the 4 pieces of the outer bag. It's time to kind of finish the loop by connecting it. One last time. That's done to here. Now this is optional, but if you want a firmer shape on the bottom, we need to strengthen the bottom by gluing a second piece of thicker leather to the inner base before the assembly. After cutting, make sure to mark 4 corners to be able to match with the base later. Here's our base. Glue this piece on the inside of the bag, which is the wrong side of this leather. And for the glue, I'm using leather glue, and I'm using it messy, but it really works only if you put it generously on both sides. And that's what I did. I don't want this piece to be separated later. Now let's use those corner marks again to match with the middle hole where the vertical stitch was on the main body of the leather. And now we match those and start sewing from there, and then close the loop. And our bottom is finished. Now it's time for the bottom. Right now this is the wrong side of the bag, and this is the right side, and the bag is also turned inside out, so I'm gonna put the right side inside and then match the hole that I marked with the middle hole that we sew first, and then starting from here, connect the loop and break it back, and that's gonna give a good base. Again, this is the wrong side of the leather, and this is also the wrong side. It's gonna come inside, but this is the right. It's gonna be visible from the outside. Now the bottom seam is finished, and I need to relax this too, so I'm hitting it. This is a better tool to hit, by the way, but it wasn't available for some of this bag making. now turning the outside. And now I'm gonna shape the seam. The most important seam in this bag is the bottom seam, so I'm gonna shape it so kind of Suede knows where to stand and how to bend. So the outer bag is complete. We are leaving this to side and we are going to the inner bag. I cut 2 pieces of each A lining and B lining pieces. Now I sew them together, and now we can put this aside too to make the fabric lining. You can make this bag without any lining, and I have that option in the pattern too, but this video is gonna include fabric lining. I'm now assembling the pattern again. 1 bottom, 2 sides, and 2 for the pockets. I'm making the lining with just 1 pocket on one side. If you want them on both sides, cut 4 pieces of the pocket leather rectangle. And remember to cut the notches too. Here I'm showing how it's going to be useful later when we're connecting the bottom piece. Let's start with the pocket. Put 2 layers to get right sides together and sew the 3 edges in the shape of an U, like that, but remember to leave 2 centimeters without any stitches on top, because we're gonna curve them inside now after we turn it inside out, so it's right side outside. Maybe there's a better way to do this, but this is how I did it. Now place it on the right side of your lining and sew the 3 edges again in the shape of a U, but this time sew it entirely. And now close the right sides together and match the markings. And now only sew 2 sides. So bottom and the top is open. After that, it's time to connect the bottom. We're gonna use the notches. That's the word I couldn't remember. And so we're gonna match the perfect circle and then carefully sew. We are still doing inside out, so we're working on the wrong side of the fabric. Now only thing left is to hem the open top edge. I'm using the zigzag stitch because I don't have an overlock machine. To connect the leather with the fabric, and for that I first need to put them together to see if the measures match, and I advise you do that too. And if they match, hold them together in the beginning and end to make sewing with saddle stitch a lot easier. Now, this VC is the wrong side of my leather with the wrong side of my fabric, because the inside of this thing is gonna be what we see when we look at inside of our bag. Be careful so the fabric does not go over the leather, because that will be visible from the outside. Now I sew it. It looks kind of messy on the inside, but it looks good on the actual inside. So I'm happy with it. I'm continuing. Next step is gonna be putting these together. We place it on the inside and put the handles together, actually, so it takes shape. And I'm gonna use even needles to align the holes so I don't do any mistakes. Now I will sew the entire seam line on top that's connecting the 2 bags except the handles. Here is where we sew in the tie closures too, so remember that. And the handles are coupled so the wrong sides are together. We are now gonna sandwich the bag with our handles. One layer on top, one layer in bottom. And we're gonna sew it like that. We're gonna start somewhere in the handle and then loop around. I hope you made it without any troubles, but if you had any troubles, please don't hesitate to message me about them, and I will try my best to help you, maybe reverse mistakes and, I don't know, troubleshoot. I hope that you had a smooth process making this bag, and I hope that I learned to make better videos next time.